I'm sure you must have seen this either in an airport or in a friend's house. It's one of these feel good books. I never took any interest, but lately I've been thinking what's there in these books? Why so many people should read them? And what's the science or significance of them? There are a few things that I would like to discuss, and it might get a bit serious because it deals with this question: what's your life's purpose? Why are you here? It's one of the most significant things in any culture, or in any context. What do you have to do with your life? And if you know even what's your purpose? Because finding a purpose is one of the most difficult things in life. Job is not the purpose. Waking up and doing certain things is not the purpose. It has to do with a very holistic understanding of the entire significance of living. Some people have some clues about it, and this kind of books coming from Japan, how to do Ikigai, tells you a little bit, how you can find purpose in your life. But I'm not going to sell it or, talk very good things about them. I will try to point out some things that you can keep your mind when you get into these kind of books, or people that are on YouTube who are talking about this kind of stuff, the feel-good stuff. Let's get a bit into the history of this. Japanese have been known for several things. Extremely high technology, and to one extent extremely complex culture, both traditionalism and then a lot of other things that have happened more recently: alienation, suicides of young people. But they have exported quite a few things to the world. For example, the export of Zen, Buddhism, which primarily originated in China and then it went to Japan. But the strands of that originated in India. But then in the early turn of the century, D.T. Suzuki and many other people who went to America popularized them, and a lot of people became the followers. So it brought in a lot of change in the spirituality climate. And then later on, more popularization with media, etc., brought in the books, the videos, sort of that. But the essence of it is cultural in nature. So every culture has given something that we can take in and soak in. So we are focusing today on something that has come from Japan. It originates as a theory of finding purpose in Okinawa, a small island in Japan. And Okinawa, many of you know, is famous for the American military base, which has been there ever since Second World War. And Okinawa is also famous for most people living more than 100 years. And this Ikigai is linked to their longevity. They found meaning in everyday small things. Somebody may be bird watching, somebody may be creating some pots, somebody may be creating something else or painting. It's not that they have won awards for doing those things, but they have been doing this thing because they like doing this thing on a daily basis. And that kind of keeps them busy. But what's the science behind it? I'll come to that later, but let's complete a bit of the history. So Okinawa exported two major things. One is Ikigai, the other one is karate, the martial art. And the story goes that when American soldiers kind of started staying there, even when the war was over, creating a military base, they were exposed to this karate, and then they took it to United States, and then from there it spread everywhere through films and through other stuff. Ikigai is finding purpose in your life in small things. And there are a couple of things about it. For example, doing what you like, doing what the world wants from you, doing what can be rewarded, and so on and so forth. So it makes sense, not that we don't know. But then, why it is so popular? It connects to the very core of the existential question that all of us deal with when we wake up, when we regain consciousness after a night's sleep. what to do today. It is not so much linked to the question of who am I, because I think most people have an idea who they are, but what to do today. And when you think that question early in the morning, it's vague, it's not very clear. Because then you basically are asking what to do today and what to keep on doing. That keep on doing question is pretty important in this context. What you can do every day. So most creative people and most other people who kind of have had found some purpose in life, they know that thing. They wake up and they do certain things in a certain way with some little variations, but throughout their lives. It's not one time. And Ikigai is about that. But you need to find out something that keeps you interested all throughout your lives. I will be a bit autobiographical here because it's my channel. I have to tell my story, otherwise there's no point. I didn't know pretty early on that I would be a scholar, but there was an environment of scholarship or intellectualism or high ideals in the family. But then things started changing and certain habits turned into an everyday affair and so on and so forth. But now, after having been in reading, writing, speaking, business for a while, it appears that these are the only things I could have done. That's my Ikigai. I wake up and do these things. Whether there is coronavirus, whether there is a catastrophe, whether there is no internet, it doesn't really matter because that's the call of my life. And it energizes me. And it's not necessarily with this idea of getting a quick reward. Reward came and reward will come. That's not the point here. But it's this engagement with this call and to keep on doing this as long as it is possible. And bringing some variations. I'll come to the variations part later. Because there is some confusion in theory with regard to exactly what Japanese people mean by Ikigai and what anybody else might mean who is not basically from that culture, because there is a cultural angle to these concepts. And how do you actually keep on doing the same things? You might lose interest if no success comes. If you don't get anything out of it, you might just lose interest. You might shift to something else. This can happen all the time. But what I'm trying to focus here is integrating. For example, if you have been doing well something, let's say writing or painting or running or anything else, you might find a similar interest and then start expanding your Ikigai. Your call, basically your purpose. So it is an ensemble of purposes. It's not a single purpose. For example, I have picked up more recently photography, about 3-4 months now, and have learned several things. How to take a good picture. It's a complex affair. It's not as easy as it seems. Pressing a mobile phone and taking a picture, which all of us do. But the key question is, is it my Ikigai, a part of my Ikigai? Will I keep on doing this? That's the important question. Otherwise, it would be amateurish. I take a picture now and forget about it. I buy a camera, then it kind of rots somewhere. This happens all the time. But how to make it a permanent? But is it my decision to make it a permanent part and symbol of my Ikigai? Or there is some connection? So most likely what will happen, if I persist and get inside it, my existing Ikigai will connect to that. Finding time is nonsense. You will find time if it's call of your life or you really like it. So I don't believe in that nonsense that people don't have time. Everybody has the same number of hours. So photography, and say, most recently I've taken up a bit more seriously how to grow indoor plants. And it's a complicated affair, believe me. When you start closely observing, you bring in a plant and understand its rhythm, its watering cycle, when the leaves turn yellow or green, depending on many conditions, and the aesthetics of it, where to hang it, and so on and so forth. So this photography and indoor plants. I have other interests, but I'm not getting into all of that. and my core interests, which I've been doing ever since. And they have given me some meaning in life. And people know me for that. Writing, researching, doing scholarly stuff. When the world was okay, organizing conferences, traveling around the world. I hope that will return back soon. So now my question is, will I be able to integrate these two newfound hobbies into the existing purpose? Then only they would make sense in the long term. Otherwise, they would appear a bit seasonal. So that's the thing. You can start something and you lose your motivation. Ultimately, we're talking about motivation. And now let's talk about cognitive science a bit. Kind of it's known that the prefrontal cortex, the frontal part of your brain, and the parietal cortex, they kind of maintain goals. So when you decide to have something doing, you have a goal. Your brain focuses on that goal. It could be short term, it could be long term. So when you have a long term goal, the brain kind of gears up towards that challenge. And there is some kind of an autopilot setup. You wake up, your brain prepares you for doing that. That's Ikigai basically. So you are basically living a purposeful life, every hour of it, very nicely divided, and you go for it. And your brain is helping you to achieve that. But it requires practice. It doesn't come so soon. I mean, even if you take examples of people in Japan who have been living 100 years, they have been doing certain things ever since. So it's not that they really got their Ikigai as soon as they were born. So the cognitive neuroscience research, obviously, there are some researches on this idea itself. You can go and search. I'm urging you to find a literature on your own because it's a nice thing to do. Rather than I put like everybody else the literature and they just put. So it's very easy to find whatever you want to find on Google or Google Scholar. So the brain basically prepares you on an autopilot mode to get going, and then pleasure, the feeling of happiness comes because you are focused. Your attention is focused on the goals. And it happens all the time, then you are more happier. So happiness to me is not an esoteric metaphysical thing related to others, but it's finding or making your brain focused on one or more things in a very controlled manner and then going about it. So that's happiness. Because Ikigai and practice of it just cannot be without feeling happy. Because entire purpose of living is to provide pleasure to yourself, as many other people would agree to this idea, and they have written about it, Freud. So it kind of makes sense when we look at various cultures, and this is coming from Japan, but there are Indian concepts as well. Look at Gita or look at Upanishads, you would find many concepts that prepare people for living their life purposefully. The purpose of reward, if I live in a certain way and do a certain amount of things, what would be my reward? Gita has a drastic opinion on it, that don't look for reward, just get going. But this is not the thing with Ikigai. Ikigai clearly tells that do certain things that is rewarded. So reward is kept in mind when you plan to do something, but people may agree, disagree on that. But I think that's ridiculous that you keep a reward and then go for doing something on a permanent basis, because rewards are transitory, and as everyone knows, they may come and go. But if you can continuously focus on something, and your brain would, that's neuroplasticity as well, because your brain would change accordingly if you are putting it in autopilot mode, and your attention would be effortless. This is another concept that is growing, that you need not even bother to pull in all this attention when you are going for these things that you have practiced for a long time, because you are operating with effortless attention. Well, the climate in Hyderabad is cloudy for many, many days, so no photographic opportunities. And I did we started, please check it out, we started a talk series which we were doing earlier, Cock Talk, and I'm giving some info here. And I talked to Professor Joseph Green of Harvard yesterday on very critical issues of, please check out the video, we'll put the video in a separate YouTube channel of my lab, and I'll put a link here. And this series of talks is basically to expand our knowledge, calling in important people, both from cognitive science, which is my field. And those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Ramesh Misra. I teach cognitive science at the University of Hyderabad. And please do subscribe. So we have started this program, and it would be fantastic if many people join. And because given the circumstances, you cannot travel and you can't do certain things. So it is nice in a certain way. Important scholars can join you online, and they don't have to travel. So it kind of saves money and other kind of stuff. It has its own problems, of course, but I think I am beginning to like it. Let's be clear about it. I am not craving now. I am beginning to like it. Who knows? This might be the future. So coming to Ikigai, it's a cross-cultural concept. I have to say something on that. Cross-cultural cognition is a major area of research, which is all about how people in different cultures differ. I don't know. There are street dogs that bark a lot when I particularly shoot my videos. Earlier, when I was in Orissa, there were people who were howling earlier, quarreling, and now there are street dogs. So you are never at peace. And I can't afford to create a sound cell studio somewhere. So let's live with life. So what I was speaking, I forgot. So yeah, cross-cultural concepts. Cross-cultural concepts are, like say, Ikigai is a Japanese concept. But you and I are not Japanese. We read this book, pick it up from an airport or a mall, and we feel good because of nice sentences. But the essence of it is specific to that culture. People of that culture kind of come endowed to understand them. Just like people in our culture, our sense of morality, our sense of virtue, our sense of ethics, they're all culture bound. And some of these things, I was speaking to Joseph Green yesterday. Please check out the video when it is on. So therefore, it's not very easy to quickly adopt. You can have a superficial understanding of watch YouTube videos, TED Talks. But the deep understanding can only come if you have some kind of immersion. That's another technical word I'm putting here. Immersion is when you go there, live there, understand the life around there, and observe for a long time, learn the language, go into the culture deeply, and then they start coming into you without even reading much books. And many studies have shown that immersion has helped people to learn language, learn a culture, change their behavior, change their cognition, so on and so forth. This tells me something. When the world opens up, the first country I am going to go, maybe the first day, is Japan. Because I have enough of, I've traveled quite a bit in Europe and other countries. It's a fantastic country. So cross-cultural concepts, either we take the view that there are some kind of invariant connections. That certain concepts like virtue, what is a good life, what is a purposeful life, how to behave with animals, are invariant across cultures. The other view would be that in different cultures, people have different views about them. So both are competing views in cross-cultural cognition. Now this concept is unique to Japan. I have noted the whole book, and there are a few other books you can find online. And you may find some criticism as well. Because those who don't believe in these things, they would criticize. And they would just say, well, I don't want to read all this. This is fine with me. So how cross-cultural concepts are sold in a market economy is important. But I would say that you need not be so investigative. You just can kind of understand that human beings crave for purpose in their lives in all cultures. And they want a virtuous life. They want a good life. And they want meaning in life. And meaning comes from purposeful, continuous work without pretty much any attention to a reward. But if you have not found that, that's the problem. Because then others will give you purpose. And you just follow them. And then you become unhappy. And you start reacting on Facebook, start criticizing, start going crazy. But there's no meaning in that. Because the kind of things you are reacting against are your masters basically. They are pressurizing you to react. because you have no purpose of your own. But I'm not saying if you persist and make it a habit and do well, then maybe reacting will be virtuous. But I've told about this before that a lot many people are reacting mindlessly without even ideological theoretical understanding. And that's the problem. It's not part of the Ikigai because it's not sustained. They don't have attention on it. They're doing it maybe once in a while and two people are clapping. That's not what this is all about. This is all about doing something that you really like continuously as long as it goes on, and then adapting to new interests, like in my case, finding out indoor plants, growing them, and photography, learning more deeply about them. And there is a connection I have already told between writing and photographing and anything that requires focused attention. They're all connected. Superficially, they may look different. I'm not trying to be a award-winning photographer or an award-winning gardener, but I'm just trying to experiment to what extent my existing attention is spread over or helps in making some inroad into these kinds of hobbies. And that kind of gives me happiness at the end of the day. And structuring life around them, the waking hours. That's quite a bit. And why it is all important now? Because I don't want to get into that. People are depressed, they're waiting for the life to open up. All that is fine. It might open up, but how does it matter if you don't have any purpose? Even if it opens up, what were you doing when it was opened a couple of months ago? So it is pretty relevant to be wishful without structuring your Ikigai. It doesn't really matter if the world is closed or open up tomorrow. You will be the same miserable person because you don't have any purpose. And nobody is going to give you. Just like consciousness in philosophy of mind is a first-person question that nobody would understand my consciousness. Similarly, nobody would understand your purpose. Nobody is going to give you your purpose. Let's be clear about that. Your brain has to produce its purpose, and your brain has to do the modifications so that that purpose is on. But you have to do so many other things. If we take any, hardcore neuroscience view, the brain's adjustments is with regard to the environment and the self. Self obviously is a psychological concept. So, I think that's what I wanted to say. And I'm still reading this book and I'll find out some others. But these books are not, written for an academic or serious audience. They're for anyone. But you can go academic if you wish. There are many research articles on or experiments people have done to find out whether people who have purpose, their brains are different. Likely so. Because I think the whole evolution of cognition is all about sharpening, finding purpose. And you can find in individuals, in countries, in cultures, in civilizations. You can go as long as you want. 3 million years. And please check out, I am speaking to Thomas Wen, an important scholar in the field of cognitive neuroarchaeology, an important field that is evolving, mostly in America. In this country, I don't know if anybody does. Next Tuesday, I'll put please watch out our Facebook page where we update all this information with posters and circulate them around, those who may be interested. You'll find all the information. So coming to Ikigai, what's about it? What's my Ikigai now? I woke up about 4 in the morning. I have restructured my life because I cannot photograph things without waking up early. So one thing led to another. That's the important, and I started adopting. And then I wrote for about 1.5 hours. I'm working on a book now, which would be published pretty soon by Sage on new frontiers in cognitive science. And then I went to run. And then coming back, I thought, you see the dogs now? They've started. Can't do anything about it. They are having the coronavirus mood. So, and then some writing again, some editing, and some thinking, some gardening, and going around is a bit risky. But again, I would put a video maybe some days later. What's this new moral question of going out when the businesses are open? Government is telling, okay, it is open. Will you like to go? But I'm not talking about that now. So this is how structuring a day into epochs and then binding them with attention is critical. So you are not waiting for anybody giving you a goal or somebody calling you or wasting your 1 hour time. Or you are, reacting to stimuli on Facebook or other stuff and feeling good about that. Because they won't allow me to speak. They're having a conference. Just like us, they have a duration of their fight. And then now they're silent. Somebody made them silence. Somebody gave them purpose. All right then. So I'll see you next with something else. I'm trying to do a little bit more this because so 1 or 2 videos a week, but short. And I started an Instagram account to put my pictures because that's the easy way out. To have like-minded people seeing my work and me getting inspiration from them. And the book writing is on. I have to find, once this book ends, that's the point. I must not leave writing. I need to find another book to write and start contacting publishers. It's my 3rd solo book. So I know by now how to do it. So that life keeps moving in the same mode. And there is no vacuum of thoughts. So I think teaching would start online sometimes. That's quite a bit. When traveling begins, traveling will happen. I think that's it for now. Have a nice day. And I will see you soon with something else. Thank you.